watching TAG TV.
Good evening and welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Tuesday, the 13th of November. French defense manufacturer clears air on Rafale deal with India. Afghan political parties optimistic over US envoy's peace efforts. And Sri Lanka begins hearing petitions challenging President's Parliament dissolution. And now for all the details. French defense manufacturer Dassault Aviation has denied that any corruption was involved in the Rafale military combat deal with India worth $8.7 billion for purchase of 36 fighter jet planes. The company's chief said it picked India's Reliance Defence as a partner for the deal on its own, countering controversies regarding the selection.
CEO of French manufacturer Dassault Aviation, Eric Trappier, has denied allegations of corruption in the Rafale jet deal with India and reiterated that his company had chosen India's Reliance as an offset partner. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's purchase of 36 Rafale planes in a deal estimated to be worth $8.7 billion has snowballed into a political controversy. Modi is facing scrutiny both on the price and the decision to choose billionaire Anil Ambani's Reliance as a local partner. Trappier said the price was brought down by 9% following the government-to-government negotiations.
We choose Ambani by ourselves, the Reliance Group, the Ambani family. We did it. We are also looking at other partners. We have already 30 partners which are not Reliance, so it's not only a Reliance. We are more than happy to be the supplier of the Indian Air Force.
India originally awarded Dassault with an order for 126 Rafale jets in 2012 after the twin-engine fourth-generation fighter beat rivals in a decade-long selection process, but subsequent talks collapsed. The first delivery of the jets, as per the new contract, is expected to take place in September next year.
Moving on, residents in illegally occupied region of Pakistan-administered Kashmir are expressing their resentment over the Neelam-Jhelum power plant project, which has been affecting their lives. A massive water crisis has built up of late, which has forced the people to either live in uninhabitable conditions or move to other places.
Anger against the local government and Islamabad over the Neelam-Jhelum hydropower plant project has snowballed into a simmering outrage in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The locals in the illegally occupied region are deprived of even drinking water as the river Neelam is drying up due to the construction of hydropower plant project. The project, which was built in the pretext of bringing prosperity, has deeply affected the lives of the common people, with many of them forced to migrate to other places in the country.
जो वाटर रिसोर्सेज तो उसी वक्त से डिमिनिश हो गए थे और उसी दिन से यहाँ पे वेजिटेशन भी मुतासर हुई है, यहाँ पे लोगों की सेहत भी मुतासर हुई है और उनको ड्रिंकिंग पानी जो है पीने के लिए उसकी कमी की शॉर्टेज हुई है.
Residents blame Islamabad has consistently maintained its oppressive attitude towards people of the illegally occupied region and has even ignored their basic demands. A part of the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir province of India, Pakistan-administered Kashmir was annexed by Pakistan illegally more than 6 decades ago.
In news from Afghanistan, political parties in Afghanistan have expressed hope over US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad's peace efforts in the country. This comes after the Moscow Summit on Peace in Afghanistan was held last week in Russia. Representatives of the Taliban and envoys from 11 countries, including the United States, attended the meeting.
A number of political parties in Afghanistan on Monday welcomed efforts by US Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad to bring about peace in the country. Meanwhile, Khalilzad listened to the views and recommendations of the political parties for brokering peace with the Taliban. This comes after the Moscow summit on Afghanistan's peace was held last week in Russia. Representatives of the Taliban and envoys from 11 countries, including the United States, attended the meeting. A delegation from Afghanistan's High Peace Council also attended the summit.
Am Afghan da America no am tarif pejani am da tarif ruhiya pui au de Afghan sifat au am Afghanistan hukumat au Afghanistan ulis pejani au da darduna au kadaunam tidresh.
On the first leg of his regional visit, Khalilzad on Sunday met with top Afghan officials, including President Ashraf Ghani and other political figures. During his meeting with Ghani, Khalilzad briefed the president on his schedule for the next week, which will see him visit a number of countries in the region.
In news from Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's Supreme Court on Monday started hearing the petitions challenging President Maithripala Sirisena's decision to dissolve the parliament. The president dissolved parliament last Friday and called a general election for January 5th.
Sri Lanka's Supreme Court on Monday began hearing the petitions challenging President Maithripala Sirisena's decision to dissolve the parliament. This came after Sirisena dissolved parliament on Friday night and called a general election for January 5th in a move that has drawn international criticism as it is likely to deepen the country's political crisis.
The Honoured Supreme Court will interpret the various stipulations stated in the constitutions, and I think justice will prevail.
Sri Lanka's new Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa also defected from the party led by Sirisena on Sunday, splitting with the president barely 2 weeks after he installed him in the office. He, along with 44 former lawmakers, joined the newly formed Sri Lanka People's Party or SLPP.
Well, I mean, international community must realize that this is democracy. Go to the people, take their mandate, is undemocratic. Are you saying that it is undemocratic?
The supporters of the main opposition United National Party took out a candlelight vigil to oppose the decision taken by the president. The intense power struggle erupted in Sri Lanka in the past 2 weeks following Sirisena's sudden sacking of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and the appointment of former leader Rajapaksa in his place.
Moving on to news from Nepal, an analyst in Nepal has claimed that the demand of constitutional amendment by the agitating parties in the Himalayan nation will fade out with time, claiming it to be driven by only political motives. Madhya-based parties in Nepal claim to represent the interest of inhabitants of the southern Terai region who are mostly Indian origin and are called Madhesis.
Prakash Timalsena, a senior journalist and an analyst in Nepal, has claimed disgruntled parties of Madhes in the Himalayan nation would not have demands except constitution amendment in future to reach out the voters. Timalsena said the demand of constitution amendment by the agitating parties will also fade out with time and claimed it to be driven by the political motives. Madhes-based parties in Nepal claim to represent the interest of inhabitants of the southern Terai region who are mostly of Indian origin and are called Madhesis.
थोड़ा सब पॉलिटिकल डिस्कशन जो हो रहा है वो मधेश का जो मांग है पॉलिटिकल मांग सब संबोधन किया है, लेकिन एक बात है कि पिछले साल जो मधेश आंदोलन हुआ था संविधान जारी करने के समय में वहाँ पर एक मांग उठाई थी संविधान संशोधन करना पड़ेगा, लेकिन ये बात हो रहा है कि संविधान संशोधन के बारे में सरकार और मधेश केंद्रीय दल जो हो उसके बीच बात हो रहा है, लेकिन मेरे नज़र से देखें इस संविधान संशोधन का एजेंडा नहीं तो सरकार आगे बढ़ाएगा, नहीं तो मोर्चबाजी दल आगे बढ़ाएगा.
The fume for the constitution amendment in Nepal, which is still fresh, has already failed once. The constitution amendment was turned down as it failed to gain a clear majority of 2/3 in the previously dissolved parliament in 2017. With the three-tier election held simultaneously, the Communist parties of Nepal then garnered majority of 2/3, appointing KP Sharma Oli as the first Prime Minister of the federal Nepal. Madhes-based parties now allege the government of ignoring demands of Madhesis, including amendment of the constitution.
A group of youngsters in India's northern hill town of Dehradun conducted a 2-month-long campaign where they collected plastic waste and returned them to the companies that used them for packaging. They collected over 200 cartons of plastic waste from different tourist hotspots and sent them back to the headquarters of their respective companies.
A group of youngsters in hill town Dehradun in India's northern Uttarakhand province recently concluded a 2-month-long campaign where they collected plastic waste and returned them to the companies that used them for packaging. The campaign Ghar Wapsi or Homecoming was started by a student activist group, making a difference by being the difference. The group collected over 200 cartons of plastic waste from different parts of Dehradun, Mussoorie and Rishikesh and sent them back to the headquarters of the companies, besides urging them to reduce the plastic waste.
जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में एक ईपीआर आता है, जिसके तहत जितनी भी ये बड़ी कंपनी हैं जिनका काफ़ी टर्नओवर होता है, उनको कूड़े जो अपना वो प्लास्टिक का कूड़ा जनरेट करते हैं, उनकी एक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी लेनी होती है, पर जो कि हमारे उत्तराखंड में खासकर की बिल्कुल नहीं देखा जा रहा है। तो इसलिए हमने सोचा कि इनको एक बार दिवाली के तोहफे की तरह हम इनका ही कूड़ा वापस भेजें।
ये बहुत अच्छा प्रयास है इन बच्चों का। ये सब मैट संस्था काफ़ी टाइम से काम कर रही है, कभी ये पर्यावरण के ऊपर ज़्यादा काम कर रहे हैं और ये जो इनिशिएटिव इन्होंने लिया ये वास्तव में काबिल गौर है, क्योंकि जो ये कंपनियां हैं जो करोड़ों रुपए का मुनाफा कमा रही हैं, समाज के प्रति इनकी कोई जिम्मेदारियां दिखती नहीं हैं। जैसे एक अभी नया कानून आया कि अपना प्लास्टिक आपको अपना वेस्ट अपना वापस लेना पड़ेगा।
According to India's Central Pollution Control Board, India generates around 15,000 tons of plastic waste daily, nearly half of which ends up in landfills, on the streets, in drains and sewage systems. The issue of plastic pollution has caught the attention of the Indian government, which in June this year pledged to eliminate all single-use plastics in the country by 2022.
Scores of people from across India and abroad recently gathered on the banks of River Ganges in India's northern Varanasi city to witness the centuries-old traditional play Nag Nathaiya, or Dance on the Hood of a Serpent. The festival, which is believed to be started by legendary Indian poet Tulsidas over 400 years ago, is observed till today to keep the tradition alive.
Thousands of Hindu devotees recently gathered on the banks of holy river Ganges in India's spiritual capital Varanasi to witness centuries-old traditional play named Nag Nathaiya, or Dance on the Hood of a Serpent. A young boy dressed in signature yellow clothes depicting Hindu Lord Krishna with a flute in his hands, peacock feathers on his head and standing on replica of a giant serpent, Kalia performed the act of taming the serpent in front of thousands of spectators from India and abroad. According to Hindu religious scriptures, Lord Krishna was once playing with his friends and his ball fell into the river. He went to retrieve the ball and tame giant serpent, Kalia, who used to poison the water in river Yamuna near Lord Krishna's village.
इसमें कास्टी के लोगों का और इनफैक्ट कहिए विश्व के लोगों का बहुत आस्था जुड़ा है। देखिए इतने लोग यहाँ असेंबल हुए हैं। 10 मिनट का ये पूरा लीला है जो आपका क्रीम पीरियड, जो भगवान काली दह में छलांग लगाते हैं और उसके बाद गेंद लेके आते हैं और काली नाग को उद्वासित करते हैं। यही प्रसंग है।
The festival, which is believed to be started by legendary Indian poet Tulsidas over 400 years ago, gazing Ganges River as Yamuna, is observed till today to keep the tradition alive. However, it has now changed its meaning of a venomous serpent to water pollution elements to create mass awareness about pollution through religion.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. French defense manufacturer clears air on Rafale deal with India. Afghan political parties optimistic over US envoy's peace efforts. And Sri Lanka begins hearing petitions challenging President's Parliament dissolution. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.